Morning. It is Thursday, June 11th. I hope that's the date I wrote on this in the beginning. It is the 11th, June 11th, Thursday. Welcome this morning. Waiting for our first person, at least that I can see on my screen. You know, it's strange when I go back and look at these later. The first person I see, which is this morning, Wendy Chadwick. Welcome, Wendy. Isn't always the first person that when I see when I go back and watch the video again, just to read your comments and so on. I don't know why there's a difference, but anyway. Karen, good morning. Despina, good morning to you both. Suzanne and Daryl, welcome. You know, I try to acknowledge as many people as I can. I think that's important. Debbie King, welcome this morning. Welcome everybody to our Thursday live stream. Caleb, good morning. Welcome everybody. There's my mom, welcome. Another beautiful morning out here. Jan, good morning. Shaver Lake, all the way from Shaver Lake. Good morning, Jan. Carmen, Brittany, good morning to everyone. Steve Hauser, Steve and Andrea, welcome. Steve, I hope your back is continuing to heal, that you're feeling better each day. Barbara Richardson, welcome. Say hello to Harry for me. Sierra, good morning. Welcome everybody. I hope your morning is going well. Mine has been going very slowly, which is exactly how I like it. Janisa, good morning. Yeah, up, not as early as I don't ever set my alarm, and I've said this before, but I usually just wake up around the same time every day. But this morning I woke up a little bit later, so I was, you know, doing my morning routine and kind of trying to, you know, it takes me the first, I don't know how many minutes just to wake up. Good morning, Ashley. Good to see you this morning. I get through a whole, you know, I used to say my first 15 minutes, I'm drinking a cup of coffee and just staring into space. I need that time just to begin to prepare my mind and my heart. There's Michael, my brother, good morning. And then, once I've done that, just kind of setting my mind on the things of today, setting my mind on the Lord, just kind of breathing in and out and preparing myself, and then I kind of open the Word and move forward and hear from God and so on. Good morning, Sally. So, yeah, that's kind of a normal part of Matthew talked about a few weeks ago, daily rhythms. That's one of the daily rhythms. I don't prescribe, but that's just the way it is. I need first few minutes and that first cup of coffee just to begin to get the wheels turning, and they turn very slowly. So this morning I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not in the Psalms today, and I read the 5 Psalms that we would have read. Karen, good morning. But my brain just was not engaged fully yet, and I didn't have a lot of time, so I kind of shifted gears. I mean, I probably, if I just kept with it, I would have some inspirational thing to say out of the Psalms, but my brain shifted gears. You know what? Let go of that pressure to come up with something. Just sit and relax and take in the morning. So that's me this morning, but I always have something I can share that I think is of value, and this morning I have a little nugget for you. It's not in the Psalms, but I think is so important, and it's from a book that I read last summer on my sabbatical called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. It's by Pete Scazzaro. I've read a couple of his books, and there was a number of books this last summer that were so impactful to my life as I was really navigating the inner parts of my heart and my thinking and how I view the world, and trying to get just very healthy on the inside so that I could be the leader that I think God wants me to be, that I want to be, all those things. And so from that book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, which I recommend, by the way, one of the principles in it is talking about the importance of discipling. Well, one of the main principles of it is that discipleship should include not just knowing about the Bible, not knowing about God. Those are the defaults, and they're the easiest things to talk about when we have Bible studies. Obviously, you study the Bible. But he and his wife's premise in their ministry is that in addition to those things, those are where we start, but in addition to those things, we need to disciple people in how to have healthy relationships. So, for instance, taking the commands of Scripture like, in your anger, do not sin, and just walk out in real time. What does that look like? How does that work? We studied just last Sunday, at least you saw part of the message, though our live stream was interrupted. In Colossians chapter 3, it says, be patient with one another, bearing with one another. If anybody has a complaint, forgive one another as Christ has forgiven us. And anybody who has ever had a complaint against someone else and struggled with forgiveness, especially those things that are really deep within us, that is like a wound, a really deep wound, that's not just I've read that verse and I'm all better now, thank you. It's actually a process, and it's very complex at times, and the wounds can be very deep. And how do you navigate that? What does forgiveness look like? What does reconciliation look like? What does restoration look like? And so I think that's something I really buy into with regard to Pete Scazzero's book is how do we navigate healthy relationships? That should be a very important part of our discipleship in the church, to put practical feet to some of those commands of Scripture that we memorize and we tout from the pulpit. What does that actually look like? So in that spirit, I have for you a nugget of relational health that is, I joke about it with, Martha and I, we joke about it, and I've talked about it a number of times, and I was reminded of it recently, and that is the importance of expectations, identifying expectations. What are expectations? And also that the source of much anger, disappointment, bitterness stem from unmet expectations. I mean, we've all experienced it, right? So you become a believer and everything's exciting. You're like, you have some expectation of what Christianity is like as a brand new believer, and then you start experiencing different things in your life and in relationship with other believers, and you think, you know what, this is not what I thought Christianity was. I'm experiencing some pain, some disappointment, some difficulty. This other Christian that's supposed to love me said something really rude to me. They gossiped about me, and so we had an expectation that wouldn't happen, and that expectation was not met, and it starts to fester in us. Anybody who's been married, you come into marriage with some pretty high expectations of what marriage is going to be like, and those expectations have been informed by like romantic comedies, novels, whatever we've read, whatever we've imagined in our mind from the time we were kids, what marriage would be like, and we idealized our future spouse, but after the wedding day, and the honeymoon is over, we know that there are many aspects of marriage that God uses to refine us, to make us better people, and to chip away the rough edges that we didn't really know were there. And so, and that's true of not just married relationships, it's true of any deep relationship that goes beyond the surface. There's going to be unmet expectations, and we think about anybody in the church who's gotten into leadership. It's like, man, I don't know how many times I've said to elders who we've said, would you consider being an elder, a leader in our church? And they said, wow, that's a really honor. What a great honor to be asked that. And they get into what, our elder meetings and things like that, and you start understanding kind of the inner workings of the church, have to do with oftentimes dealing with conflict or some difficulty in the church, or the elders not always agreeing on how to move forward with something and how we work that out. And all of a sudden the person is like, well, I thought elder would be like this just amazing spiritual high, and I've just had this lofty expectation of what that would be like. And the reality is, I'm kind of disappointed. How many people have gotten into leadership in the church just to be disappointed when they see that we're actually human beings working out our salvation in real time, just like everybody else? And you would think that, yeah, that's an unrealistic expectation, but we all have expectations that just go unmet, and it's disappointing. That my relationship with God, well, anyway, you get the picture. So there are 4 things that Peter Scazzero lays out that make an expectation valid. If these 4 things are not in place, it's not a valid expectation. You shouldn't expect this from whatever. And so I'm just going to give you those 4 things this morning that I think are really, really helpful, really practical as far as healthy relationships, healthy relationship with God, healthy relationship with your church, healthy relationship with your spouse, healthy relationship within your workplace. I mean, it really applies to all these different kinds of relationships. So the first one is, in order for an expectation to be valid, it has to be conscious. We have to be conscious of that particular expectation. And so let me back into this from the other perspective. Many of our expectations are unconscious. And we don't even know they're there. That we even have this expectation until we're disappointed, until something irritates us, until something gets under our skin and we think, you know what, I'm upset about this. And a light can go on in our mind. It's like, you know what, you had an expectation. You had an expectation of things going a certain way that you weren't even conscious of, and now you are conscious of that expectation. Let me give you an example working in ministry. When I was doing youth ministry so many years ago, it was kind of at the glory days of our ministry in the early 90s or mid 90s, and there was probably 60 kids coming to the youth group every youth group night. We had 20 volunteers. We had just all these things happening. It was this really big production, at every youth group evening, and because of that, at the end, there was a lot of cleanup. So if you can imagine, I was serving at Calvary Chapel in Pine Grove at the time, and if you can imagine our church auditorium and all the chairs, every week we would clear out all the chairs and stack them up and open that space up, because up there at Calvary, that's also a basketball court. And we'd play basketball as part of our evening activity, playing basketball. We'd serve food. We would, just do a number of things to pull off this evening. Well, at the end of the evening, everything had to be cleaned up. Everything had to be put back. It was a big production. And what I was finding is, emptying garbages and cleaning this and sweeping and vacuuming. And I was doing a ton of it. I mean, a disproportionate amount of that, setting things back in place. I was there late. Everybody had left. I'm still going. Martha is like the Energizer Bunny. She just keeps on going. And all of a sudden I started feeling myself, I'm getting grumpy about this. Doesn't anybody, see what's happening here? And all of a sudden this grumpiness realized, like, you know what? I had an expectation that people would help. You think that's not an unreasonable expectation, right? So that leads us to the second point of once that expectation becomes conscious, the second point is it reasonable? Is it realistic? Is it a realistic expectation? And so once we have a conscious, I have the expectation of people helping me. Is it reasonable to think that someone's going to help me put everything back after youth group and all that? Yes, it was. It was very reasonable. I had a team of 20 volunteers. Everybody working, everybody had specific jobs, but at the end of the night, everybody was still socializing and connecting with kids, which is all good. Nobody was, just leaving. It was just, everybody was doing stuff, but I was doing the majority of the stuff that I didn't want to do. And so I felt like it was a reasonable expectation that people would help. So it's conscious, it's reasonable, and then the third, it has to be spoken. And this is where my argument, my disappointment kind of fell apart in that scenario. I didn't tell anybody, but I needed help. I didn't articulate it very well. Here was it. I had a conscious expectation. It was a realistic expectation, but it was an unspoken expectation. My expectation was everybody should just know. Everybody should just know my need. Everybody should just know that I need help. Can't they see all the things that I'm doing? Can't they see that I'm taking out, not just one bag of garbage, but multiple trips out to the dumpster? Can't they see that I'm vacuuming, that I'm setting up? Everybody, it's in full view. I'm setting up chairs. Would be nice if someone else would help, But the reality is, I didn't articulate my need. I didn't speak it. And so I came up with this great idea that I was going to create a list. Here's all the things that need to be done at the end of every youth group night. And I put a long list with a little checkbox by everyone. And it's communicated, I verbalized, here's the deal. If you are actively ministering to a student, you're exempt. You keep on ministering. But if, things are wound down and you're just kind of shooting the breeze, here's a list of things that need to be done by the end. And grab one of those things, two of those things, check it off the list and make sure they get done. Well, what happened was no short of a miracle. Just by articulating my expectation, which was realistic, all of a sudden everything got done. Everybody jumped in. Everybody was willing. They wanted to help. I didn't speak it. I didn't speak the expectation. And then the fourth thing is, in order for an expectation to be valid, it has to be agreed upon. Just saying it doesn't make sure it's going to happen. How many times in our relationships with people, or my relationship with Martha, I mentioned something. Hey, so-and-so wants to get together on Wednesday night, or let's do something this weekend, like, give an idea. I had an expectation. It was conscious. I felt like it was realistic. I spoke it. And then when the weekend comes, and it's like, hey, I thought we were going to do this. Well, Martha had a different idea of what she wanted to do. She never agreed upon my spoken expectation. Just speaking it isn't enough. We have to agree upon it. We have to say, yeah, I agree. That's what we should do. And this is great in the workplace. This is great in relationships. This is great in the church. This is great in our relationship with God, right? Sometimes this is where it gets a little deeper, is we can have unconscious expectations of God. In particular, let me give you an example that I feel and see in my office all the time when I'm talking to people, is that when things go wrong in someone's life, there is this disappointment that God somehow is neglecting them. It's like, I thought God was going to protect me from this. How can this be happening in my life? Does he even love me because of this bad thing, this very legitimate, painful thing? And what is often revealed in those circumstances is that that person had an unconscious expectation that if I serve God, if I'm obedient, if I am serving in the church, I'm loving people, I'm reading my Bible, I'm trying my best to do all the things that the Bible prescribes, that somehow God should protect me from the ills of the world. I shouldn't have sickness. I shouldn't have broken relationships. Christian men and women who have come together in marriage, that just because they're Christian doesn't mean that marriage is going to be amazing, right? We're still human beings. We have to work through the rough edges in our life and so on. And sometimes we become embittered toward God because God didn't protect us from some of these difficult things that we're experiencing. In reality, that unconscious expectation just has become conscious, and God certainly, is it realistic? No, not according to the scripture. Did God agree upon that? No. And Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. There are going to be a lot of things that happen in this life that are going to be very unpleasant. They're going to be very painful, but take heart. I will be with you every step of the way. And in the end, when we meet face to face, either when I come again or when you come to meet me in heaven, God says you will be rewarded beyond any tragic, difficult thing that you experience in this life. You will be rewarded. The glory that you experience will far outweigh the suffering that you endured in this life. That is what God agrees to. And he uses these difficulties in our life to grow us. He says, here's how you're going to benefit from this. You're going to develop perseverance. You're going to develop endurance. You're going to develop character. This is all part of growing up as a mature believer. Everybody has to experience. It's the way that we build our spiritual muscles. And so God, in a very loving way, allows us to experience these difficult things. Now, you've heard a million sermons on this. You've read it a bunch of times. Yet we still sometimes have this unwritten, unspoken, unrealized expectation that God is obligated to protect us from all this. And if he doesn't, what kind of God is this? Does he really love me? I'm struggling here, God. But that's not an expectation God agreed upon. So you can see the value of these tools as it relates to expectations, as it relates to our relationship with people in the workplace, in the ministry, and even our relationship with God. Expectations, let's review, have to be conscious, they have to be realistic, they have to be spoken, and they have to be agreed upon. So anytime we get roughed around in our unmet expectations, go back and review that. And I think that's really helpful for us as we navigate relationships and navigate our relationship with God. Be blessed today, and I won't see you again till Monday, but I will see you on Sunday. For those of you who are going to be able to physically attend Grace on Sunday morning, remember we have 2 services, 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. And we can have up to 100 people at a time in any one of those services. So prayerfully consider which of those services you're going to go to. We need everybody kind of to disperse themselves between the two, and we don't have any system in place to like a reservation system or whatever. We're hoping for the best, that it'll kind of shake out the way it's supposed to, and that we'll have plenty of space to spread out according to the guidelines we've been given. But I'm so excited to be able to meet together on Sunday and to see many of your faces in person as we worship together. And, we're also going to have our live stream. We've been practicing again this week, and hopefully it will go with fewer hitches this upcoming Sunday. And that live stream will be at 10:30, just like it has been in the past. So we'll hopefully see you in person this Sunday, 9 a.m. or 10:30, and if not, we'll see you online at 10:30 a.m. God bless you today.